Archival legislation provides the essential framework that enables a National Records and Archives Service to operate with authority in its dealings with other organs of state. In many countries, legislation relating to the management of records and archives exists in the form of a National Archive Act. Electronic record keeping has many obvious advantages. Studies done in many regions of the world have shown that it also brings its own challenge, and the management of such records needs to be regulated. To enable the proper management and preservation of electronic records, there is a need for archival legislation to embrace records created and stored in network environments. Audiovisual materials are part of the national heritage treasures, which is kept as a collection of the National Archive, which may be referenced by researchers. It is also a source of national history and culture, which symbolize the art of national creativity as well as reflection methods and development of audiovisual media in Malaysia.
In this part, we will explain about the background.
Record management is the practice of managing or tracking the life cycle of record in a systematic, structured, planned, and controlled manner. A record might be a physical paper things or a digital or electronic file.
Record management handles the three stages of the record life cycle, which is the making or receiving of a record, the upkeep or general use of record, and the disposal of a record. Next, I will explain about definition of audiovisual. Audiovisual record can be defined as photograph, audio recordings, film files, video tape recording, and machine-readable records considered public document and should be included in any disposal schedule.
So, there are 5 issues that ARML faces in managing medical record and audiovisual materials. First, lack of awareness of ARML value. When there is no awareness given to the ARML, of course, less budget also is provided. Second, lack of expertise in preserving audiovisual materials. Because of obsolete software, some of the material has been lost and is no longer accessible. Third, not updated and reviewed legislation. Inadequate ARML can lead to poor record management and preservation of audiovisual. Fourth, inefficient management. ARML cannot perform the process of managing the medical records and audiovisual material efficiently and effectively. Lastly, impoverished security system. When there is no protection against the located building, the risk of the material's authenticity, accuracy, and dependability being compromised is considerable.
For suggestions, government cannot operate successfully or efficiently without records and archives, and it cannot be accountable to its citizens without them. As a result, governments all over the world require records and archives legislation to assure. As stated, the lack of records and archives legislation to serve as a guiding principle for custodians, makers, and users of records and archives poses significant hazards. This highlights the needs of governments having a good legislative framework in place for their management activities in order to comply with new legislative requirements such as the Archive and Records Management Legislation, or known as ARML. So the suggestions that can be taken by the government are firstly to consider updating or revising their records and archives legislation. Next is to create awareness programs, and finally redistribute. Firstly, the governments need to consider updating or revising their records and archives legislation or produce new capability of records for ARML in both managing medical records and audiovisual material. This means to provide adequate safeguards to protect rights of users. Next is the government need to create awareness programs on ARML and how to go about revising or updating the legislation, including introducing such legislation. The program can aim to address why ARML, impact of ARML on records, and identifying the benefits and limits of ARML. Finally, the government need to redistribute. The changes are subsequently made to the digital version, which is then distributed to all parties concerned to advise them of the change. This will provide essential documentation for organization faced with possible litigation arising from this.
There were several discussions for and challenges of archive and record management regulations in managing medical records and other visual materials. Firstly, managing correction materials in medical records and other visual while delivering high quality and contributions for operation. Secondly, to preservation collection of materials that handling, maintaining, and also provisions to assessing with complex of roles. Next, provide scheduling for and effective materials to participations in every decision making that provide effects in managing of formats materials records. Next, maintenance policy and procedure in aspect protections, rules and records. Lastly, retrieval forms of medical records and other visual information and resources.
In conclusion, the ARML helps maintain the most systematic framework in handling record and archival material. It also overcome and outdo the common issues occurred when managing the materials. Another function of the ARML is it provides sufficient administration, which is vital for institution and organization to function adequately. Therefore, the purpose of this study is to find a solution and suggestion for the challenges which meant to help improve the efficiency of the ARML. And the most important action that must be taken seriously by any organization is to implement the framework according to the requirements for the records management system as prescribed by the government.